Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Gang's here.
Wow. So
Three.
such a wow, that was intense.
we were welcome everyone. We were just having a very casual, calm conversation. I think I surprised Jenna with the enthusiasm for this exclusive cast tasting tonight.
I had a mouthful of whiskey I almost choked on. Holy moly, I looked up and
We've just learned Tom has actually been sipping on quite a few. He's warmed up and ready to go. His
I have
palate is
been
fully
pre-gaming,
saturated.
ladies and gentlemen, so watch out. Watch out. I might sing some carols or something later.
Happy December, everyone. And the biggest news, as you can tell, is Jenna has a new cabinet. Jenna, congratulations.
I have a new cabinet. Thank you.
Really
Thank
nice.
you.
Really nice.
Everybody in the chat, tell us what you think of Jenna's cabinet.
What is that,
Yeah.
slate gray there? That's
Yeah,
nice. I mean, that's classy.
These poor bottles have been in storage for almost 6 months, so finally got to bust them out and revisit
Nice.
a few. So that was nice. Yeah.
Dust them off. Very good. You have a little chalkboard back there. What does that say?
That is an ode. If anybody's ever gotten an email from our beloved Brianna Ross,
Oh, good.
Wow,
That's how you explain it.
Yeah.
it is her signature, and it is just my little, so she's here with us too.
Maybe I'll get something that says kind regards back there. I don't know.
Yeah,
See
you
what we can do.
should.
Well,
Yeah.
Jenna, looks good. And everyone, first of all,
Thanks.
welcome to the stream. Really exciting tasting. It'll probably be a brief tasting. Typically we end up doing these out-term previews where we have a bunch of whiskeys that we go through and then get slower and slower the further we go down the line. We got one whiskey tonight. And as you can tell by the title of this video, it is a U.S. exclusive cask chosen by you. This was actually, and Tom, I'll leave this to you. Give us a quick rundown before we get into it. I can see you already nosing. If you can kind of already tell what the Tom's this thing is dark at AF. Give us a quick rundown of what we got going on tonight.
Yeah, sure. Well, tonight is the final release of our 2020 tasting panel experience campaign. So for those who are maybe really new to the society, haven't been around for one of these releases, I guess it's been about a month or so since we released the last one. Back in 2019, we thought up this fun idea to actually allow American members to have a lot of input on what exclusive casks we brought to the US for them. So we devised a fun little tasting trip with our friend Charlie MacLean. Many of you might know Charlie through our streams, various streams or books that he's written, about 18 or 19 in total about on the subject of whiskey. He's received all kinds of accolades, including from the royal family just recently. So Charlie is the man, and it just so happens that Charlie was the first tasting panel chairperson of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society back in 1992. So we started in 83, and we did have a tasting panel up until Charlie started in 92. It was a bit more informal, mostly around Pip's kitchen table and very laid back and sometimes not so productive. They had a real fun time doing it, but not always the most productive endeavors. So they wanted to bring a little more organization and direction to this experience, to this process. And so they brought in Charlie, and Charlie from 92 until, I don't know, about 5 years ago or so, was one of the main chairman of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society's tasting panel. Now, chairs rotate, active participants of the panel rotate as well. But I think it might be useful to tell you what this tasting panel is all about very briefly. Before any of our casks are released to our members around the world, we make sure that these bottles are shining and really showing their best stuff with a group of experts from the UK mostly. Oftentimes in non-COVID times, you'll have some guest panelists from elsewhere around the world. But regularly, weekly, really, these people come together and taste a series of samples to see whether or not they're ready to be released. So rest assured, you may see several casks on our website but each and every one of those has been vetted by some very, very sharp palates. So we decided to make the American members that tasting panel with Charlie as our chairperson. So again, back in 2019, we did a little road show. We hit 5 different cities, and in each of those we had about a 30-person event, and we tasted through 6 samples in a classroom style, seated, no food or anything like that, earlier in the day, and examined these. And American members gave their input. I collected all that data, and with ratings decided which of these 3 whiskeys would be bottled for the U.S. Charlie then created the tasting note and the title for each cask, and away we went. So that was those were released over the course of 2020, and after our I think it was our last cask of the 2019 campaign was released, it was time for our 2020 tasting panel experience. Lo and behold, surprise to no one at that point, we couldn't do it in person. So we took a different tack, and the 3 of us together tonight were with Charlie in mid-October of 2020, and we represented the American members. Sorry guys, I got a few people like walking by over here.
That's all right.
So
We got a whiskey waiting. So I'm just hearing you talk about this and
yeah. But anyway, just to wrap it up, the 3 of us, took on the mantle of representing the society members of the U.S. at large, and we tasted with Charlie for about 2.5 hours, and it was a lot of fun. We tasted through 6 whiskeys, and then a couple days later we sent out an email, and you guys, the members of the society, voted on which 3 casks we had released, and we've been releasing them over the course of 2021. Is that too many words? Probably too many
done.
words. My wife always says,
no. Listen.
Too many
Well
words. Anyway, so listen, it was meant to be something that was in person, where members could really engage with Charlie in person, on a small basis, and very intimate basis, rather, I should say. And last year it was kind of weird. Hopefully, for our next round of whiskeys, we're hoping to do it in person. So while it would be the 2021 session, we're shooting for March of 2022, and having Charlie over to the U.S. As long as some Greek alphabet variant doesn't screw us up, hopefully we can go through with that. So
nice.
That would be cool to get back in person.
That would be cool.
The way this was meant to be done. But we've had some stellar whiskeys released this year. What did we kick off with? Was it Clam Bake on the Beach? I want to say.
We had, so there were 3. This is number 3 of the 6 that we tasted. So the 3rd that was chosen, and I remember, I think opinions were pretty split. And typically when we do these open voting, just in general amongst members or even ourselves, I always find that there's never a clear winner in anything. Like opinions are so divided, preferences are so unique. So I'm trying to recall, because it was over a year ago, but I'm pretty sure this is one of the few, this one here, that I think everybody agreed on that this should be featured. I remember that much, that this one should.
Everybody being the members, or everybody being us 3?
Well, I should say at least amongst the 3 of us, because rarely will the 3 of us all agree on something. I mean, we all have different palates and interests. But I remember this one. I think us all saying like, okay, I really hope this one is bottled, because this is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, me and Jenna were a little bit more into it, than maybe you were at first, Ben. But you warmed up to it.
I was peer pressured. No, I'm kidding. I mean, maybe I'm not kidding. I'm gonna open this right now, and we'll remind myself. No, but either way, I think it's a hell of a whiskey.
Refresh your recollection. So I just quickly pulled out the other 2. So in August, we released this guy, Clam Bake on the Beach, cask number 53.375. So that was the first guy that we released. And then in October, we released this dude. Campfire Breakfast
love that
on a
whiskey.
Damp Morning.
That's right. The double
16.52.
Pete's.
What a killer whiskey. Really fun. So we have just one more left.
And
One more. That's it.
welcome to
And
Scott. Scott's in the chat. Scott Maltialti was asking earlier where you are, and we said we're giving you the day off because you got a busy December, and I think
You've got a busy December, buddy.
Many more to come. So we're trying. Scott's. We're so excited. Scott's on board, and obviously the veteran YouTuber, a whiskey tuber, I should say, of all of us, and we're all pumped. I think we'll all try to be around to a certain extent, but he's going to be steering the ship, which is amazing. So. All right, we talked about the last two. Jenna, you were going to say something. I'm sorry. I think we were.
No. I was just in talking about this release. It's I like that it's festive. Like this is a festive kind of dram.
So should we just cut the ribbon already and let's get to it? Because I need a whiskey.
Let's open this present.
All right.
Boom. All right.
We did not prepare the brief.
Come on, I want to drink
We had
it.
a brief powwow before the stream, and I was like, "All right, guys, let's talk about the order. Who's going to say what? Yada. And Tom says to me, "Let's just be together,
man."
And so
my daughter is really into this like '60s folk, like Apple Music playlist. So I'm just all.
Goodness.
I'm going to San Francisco with flowers in my hair, dude. Yeah.
I like the vibe.
Yeah, let's just be with this whiskey and enjoy its totality.
Okay, so
look at that fucking color, man. Come on.
Let's share what it is, Tom. Everybody dropping tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. Eastern time. It's cask 30.116, a Christmas changeling from the deep, rich, and dried fruit flavor profile. I know so many of you are into that. Actually,
it's not deep, rich, and dried fruits, dude. That's a.
This is
it's a typo. This is an old and dignified.
ONG.
Yeah, old and dignified whiskey. If you look at that, that deep red, it's the amateur hour over here. Thanks for whoever put that banner up. Thanks so much. Merry Christmas. But no, it's okay. Listen, it's old and dignified. I mean, it very well could be deep, rich, and dried fruit. It could be, but it is not, sadly. But let's look at this label. We have some sprites flying around here. There's
a lime.
Yeah, there's a lime, which is interesting to me. There's a lime wearing reindeer antlers, and I think that's what I'm seeing.
Yes.
And the cinnamon sticks, for sure, I get it. And then the Christmas cake over here, absolutely. But where does this lime fit in? I have to go back over my tasting note. I don't remember there being much lime, lime citrus like kind of aspect to this whiskey, but I don't know. Maybe that's something like Charlie just went rogue and was like, you know what? I've had a few smokes. I'm tasting lime. I don't know, maybe.
I don't know now. I'm smelling it. We should not. The power of suggestion. Now I like smelling citrus and lime.
Oh, no. Well, hey, I mean, that's fine. Certainly, I think a citric edge when you're talking about sherried casks with all their dried fruits and sometimes candied orange peel and that kind of thing. You can let that in. It's not.
There is like a nice zestiness on the nose. There is like a zest. Maybe that's where the lime fits in.
Well, we got to figure out a couple of things. One, our system on the back end says deep, rich, and dried fruits. So, but we have clearly this dark red flavor profile on the bottling, which is the old and dignified. And just smelling this right now, I would say it's definitely would fall within our old and dignified. Yeah. And we'll clear up that one way or another by tomorrow. But of course, because this has been time in sherry cask, a lot of times we'll see the deep, rich, and dried fruits flavor profile will have whiskeys that have spent this much time. And look at the color too. But man, right away, just nosing it. First of all, there's such a depth that's balanced between the spirit and the wood that it's not just screaming necessarily a sherry bomb. You know what I mean? Oh,
But this was 21 years in ex-bourbon and then spent 2.5 in first fill, Pedro Jimenez, correct? Hogshead.
That's right. Yeah. So 2 years additional maturation there in the PX Hogshead. Very active cask, obviously.
Yeah.
And I went back to our tasting with Charlie, and something he mentioned was that this particular distillery holds sherry very, very well. It's a pretty robust distillate that can really take on a nice, rich sherry character. So yeah, I mean, we're set up for success. It's really good. I mean, listen, but I think. Guys, I mean, I love this shirt.
Bill says, Tom, your mind wants to go to San Francisco, but your shirt wants to go to Seattle. Love that comment.
I feel like if I change my shirt, that's all anyone would ever.
I like to pin that.
I got to keep it rolling.
Good evening, Jesse. Jesse says good evening, and that's So, Jenna, you want to share kind of your just overall first impressions of this whiskey? Again, apologies. I'm going to put the banner back up now that we fixed that there. Here's the whiskey we're tasting.
So I'm trying to remember what I got from this when we first, had it. Gosh, back in October of
I have
last
all my
year?
notes. I have all my notes right
You
here.
have all your
I know
notes.
exactly what everybody got from it first time. So go for it. I'll tell you how spot on you are.
How I stack up. Okay, so there's definitely like a candied nuttiness to this, and there's almost like a little hint of amaretto I'm getting on the nose. Like it's like this sweet, nutty, very creamy kind of note. And then there's just that little kind of zest on the very end. It's oh man, I gotta sit with it for a second. Hold on. Haven't done this in a while.
Well, I think when we tasted this last year, it was still in the cask, so it was a sample that was pulled, because we were voting on whether this should be bottled or not. So some time did pass from the time that we first sampled to actually it was bottled, but relative to the 23 years in oak, now it wasn't much different. And maybe it was my palate at the time. Now our palates were also very saturated, because we were tasting 6 whiskeys.
Yeah.
That's
This is the first whiskey I've had today. My palate's super fresh,
Mine
and
too.
my memory does not equate to what I'm experiencing right now. It's much more technically nuanced and complex. There's things firing on all cylinders in different directions. Whereas I think I remembered it being a bit more just intense sherry over an older whiskey. This is really, really well harmonized, which I just think which means when you smell it and you taste it, if you're really experienced with whiskey or you want to share with it a family member, I don't know, on Christmas. That's Christmas is the name, so it's appropriate. I think it's easy to appreciate. You just smell this and you're like, oh wow, this is something totally different, and there's a lot of depth.
It has the sort of deep, rich, dried fruit sherry character up front, but very quickly you go to secondary, tertiary kind of flavors that typically signify an old and dignified expression. You just have that age, a touch of earthiness to it. It's not all candied, dried fruits and that kind of thing. There's quite a bit more to it. And Jenna, to your point about the citrus, I'm almost getting an orange rind pulled out of an old fashioned cocktail or something like that, and then a bit of that maraschino.
Maraschino. I was thinking
coming through quite a bit.
Those Queen Anne cherries. It's leathery. It's buttery. It's nutty. I could nose this for a while.
Yeah.
Do you think? I'm just curious for both of you. Just tasting this. Yeah. Do you pick up that this is obviously spend some time in a PX sherry cask? Do you think if you tasted this blind, would you pick up PX sherry just from experience, or would you find it a bit?
I would pick up sherry for sure.
Yeah. And sure.
Then it's process of elimination. I'm not getting as much nuttiness as maybe you are, Jenna. So
yeah.
And nutty character is what really triggers Oloroso for me.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I was gonna say it's
Still, it's tough though. I mean, it's tough. I just tasted part of my pregame earlier was 125.77. If people recall, that was a 15-year-old last couple of years.
Yeah.
In a PX barrique from like a super small family-owned sherry producer whose vines are ancient, and it actually smells more like Oloroso than it does PX. So it's like, as soon as you think you have it figured out, there's a curveball thrown at you. But
it's like it's not like a nut bomb.
Definitely not. No.
No.
I see what you're saying. There's like I'm getting like some kind of brittle kind of
like a brittle. Yeah, definitely. Like a caramelized, I don't know. There's just something like in the underbelly of this that is just giving me these very like buttery, nutty vibes.
Ben, to answer your question, if I'm blind tasting this, I would say yes, it's sherry. Anything beyond that, like,
definitely
it's a bit of a guess for me.
I think I had the absolute same experience, Tom, as you. That it's like I've ruled out. Again, we know what it is, but it's definitely not Oloroso sherry. But what I actually brought that up at the follow-up kind of comment is that this is actually, of course, it was spent some time in American oak hogshead, presumably prior to this, but it's actually the final years were in a Spanish oak PX cask, whereas typically what we find is most like 95% of those that we'll use are American oak. So this is much spicier. Not the spices that you would get from Oloroso sherry from within the cask, but actually from the wood itself. So it's unique to any of the PX matured or double matured whiskeys that I think we've seen in a long time. Because a lot of, most of sherry is, of course, aged in actually American oak. And if you see a Spanish oak cask that had sherry in it, it was seasoned for Scotch whiskey maturation. Not all the times, but like 95% is an American oak. So we acquire these bodega casks, sherry casks from Spain, bodegas in Spain, ship them up to our warehouse in Western Scotland, and we'll transfer spirits into them. So this is interesting. I haven't seen a Spanish oak PX hogshead in a long time, and of course it's a hogshead, so it's a smaller cask than a bud or anything. So anyway, my point is I pick up a lot of intense tannins and spices. I shouldn't say intense because it's only 2 years off of 23 in total, but you have that element there, and then like the fruity, sticky, sweet fruitiness of the PX.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's I think it's like totally unique way to use PX. You know what I mean? For what we're used to. So
I think Ewan is, by now most members understand that Ewan is trying to push whatever boundaries he can, and really try and experiment as much as possible. And I think that's just another way to be able to do that, for sure. But yeah, it's the spices are there. I still get quite a bit of like salted caramel with my maraschino cherries.
Yeah, I'm with you on the caramel part, like that brittle.
And Jenna, to go back to what we were saying on camera a little over a year ago, 14 months ago or so.
Yeah.
You were saying that there was all kinds of pure maple syrup, which I totally get here.
Yeah.
And that you would just pour it on your pancakes, like just pour it on pancakes, man. And that's so spot on. Yeah. Because you got the buttery, you got the maple syrup thing going on. It's all there. It's very, very, it's delicious on the nose. Have we tasted this yet? Can we taste this?
No, gosh, can we please taste it?
Shout out to Jesse, who had an SMWS tasting at his whiskey club meet last week. They weren't ready for cast strength Scotch just yet. Train them. So yeah, man, got to walk before you can run. I remember the first time I had like a cast strength sherry bomb, and I wasn't into it. It was cool. I was like, well, there's something here, but man, I had to sort of learn to tame it a little bit, And
sure, add water,
Yeah,
warm up to it that way. All right, may we go in?
Yes.
We're tasting. All right.
Tally ho. Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
I think I love the, what is that, ASMR, like where you hear people like chew and eat, like every time we take a sip, it's like you hear like Ben and his swishing and Tom's chewing it, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but all the sounds.
That was a trick I picked up from horse looning. If you guys know,
yes,
looning, horse looning. Welcome to whisky.com. My name is Looning Horse Looning. Oh no, welcome to whisky.com where fine spirits meet.
Wow.
Tom just got on YouTube in 2020, so he missed that. But I learned about whiskey from YouTube.
I read words on a page from whiskey.com. I don't listen yet. I'll get there. You do?
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I learned about whiskey through YouTube exclusively many years ago.
Wow. Well, there's your tannin that you were talking about with the Spanish oak.
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, it's not drying tannin. It's it's providing beautiful structure. I'm getting the sense of the 20 plus years. The distillate is balanced and round and lovely, and then you just have this really nice layer of rich kind of. Again, my salted caramel comes back to me. What else? I mean, the Christmas cake fruit that like really like boozy Christmas pudding, like a good figgy pudding, if you guys can get it in your area.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that is nice.
Yeah. Jenna, you were going to say something?
Nope, just I'm in the moment.
Yeah, I think I just opened this bottle. I just poured it. I don't know if you just did the same. If you guys have had yours open and breathing for a little bit,
45 minutes.
No. For me,
it's been for about 2 days.
Oh, it has. Okay, so I'm curious to see how this particular bottle evolves, but it comes off as a bit raw and aggressive too. Like there's a robust nature to the profile. It's not. I don't know. Maybe it's this Spanish oak and the PX. There's like a lot going on, and it's definitely intense. 54%. I feel like, again, this is my first whiskey, so maybe if I had one previously, I would feel warmed up. But this is like an intense whiskey, intensely flavored. It's not a gentle, elegant, necessarily like what you define as classically luxurious whiskey. It's like it's got real character to it. But Tom, like I said,
I don't think it needs. I don't think that. What am I trying to say here? You can certainly have tons of character without it being in your face. I wouldn't consider this a robust. I mean, it has energy, it has concentration of flavor,
right?
But is this like in your face? No, and maybe that's not what you're saying, but
well, relative to
I think this has incredible balance. But I also had 2 whiskeys before this.
That's what I'm saying.
So maybe that's just where we are, like palate wise, right now.
Well, there's that, but also there's about expectation. So I think I'm speaking relative to my own expectation of what this would be when you see on paper 23 years old and dignified, Bayside whiskey, PX sherry. You kind of think of like, it's going to be an old, elegant, calm, luxurious. But again, from the first nosing to tasting, like it clings to the palate. The thing is much more aggressive than you'd be led to believe. Yeah.
And
I think it has incredible balance. It really does have impeccable balance. So I do want to say that. I see what you're saying. There is a lot happening on the palate for sure. And I think that's probably true of a lot of our whiskeys. I can think of a few others that are even like, sub 50% that carry an intensity to them, and that's probably just being cask strength with all the natural oils and all that there. But it is a bold 54% for sure.
Very bold.
Would you say it's atomic? Mark?
Atomic.
Is it atomic?
Sure. The hell does atomic mean? I mean, is it blowing our minds? I mean, it's a beautiful whiskey. It's a beautiful whiskey.
I don't know, Jenna. What do you interpret atomic as? Or Mark, if you want to clarify, would you say this whiskey's atomic, Jenna?
Yeah, I mean, I think like it totally just like takes over your whole palate and squeezes it like really tight. Like it definitely has that like this is like setting a scene. It's like you're in a cabin in the middle of the woods and it's snowing and you're freezing.
Eating pancakes.
And like you have all kinds of like, sweets around you're in an old leather chair that just the smell like just encompasses your whole face. And I love like the giant stack of firewood that's next to you, because this wood reminds me, it's so woody. Like there's so much wood in this whiskey. Yeah. I love it. It is so, it like really does take you somewhere. And that's what I love about this. And to go back to that atomic point, I mean, it really does just like take your whole palate and just like squeeze it really tight. So it's a hot 54%. I mean, I'm into this.
Alti says it doesn't sound like a cherry bomb, more nuance. Yeah, definitely. I think
for sure.
This is
zero for those of you who care. Zero sulfur. There's no sulfur anywhere to be found on this whiskey, so that's important to some people. And going back to what you were just saying, Jenna, that brings up a kind of a soundbite that I wish I had. But Ben, in our original tasting of this stuff, was talking about how smoky this whiskey was, and there is definitely like.
Are you looking at your notes? Is that why?
I'm sorry.
Do you have that from memory?
He has the notes.
Oh, you took the notes. Okay.
I take notes, dude. Okay, so when I write these emails, I actually do a little bit of research.
I was thinking like how many whiskeys we described you pulled.
I don't pull it all out of my ass,
Whoa.
But anyway, you had mentioned that there was a smokiness, a pronounced smokiness to this whiskey, and as Jenna was painting this scene of being in the leather chair by the campfire, this definitely has some of that like that like a campfire that's just burnt out, and you're smelling just a little bit of that not a campfire, sorry, it's an indoor like it's a fireplace fire like yeah and that's there, that's there, and it is nuanced. It's not a bomb in your face for sure. There's definitely a lot more complexity to this.
Todd Greenhouse says, will this be limited to one bottle? I believe it is. Right, Tom? This
it needs to be, guys. It needs to be. It will be a lottery, like the others have been. That email will go out tomorrow. So, yeah, it'll be limited to one bottle per member. So share with your fellow member. If you win and they don't, 'tis the season to spread some liquid love.
Yeah, obviously this was a project that was Tom. This was your brainchild of Tom. You came up with this project to do the U.S.
I was getting really hammered at a club in New York, and we were just brainstorming with a few members, it all of a sudden was like, hey, wait a second, we have the assets to do this. We have whiskey, we have members. We have airplanes and other modes of transportation to get us from point A to point B. We can do this. So it was cool.
Yeah,
and in person is really it's a different vibe, obviously, because you have Charlie. I mean, it then turns from a passive kind of stream that you're watching on your computer or whatever to a very active masterclass with Charles MacLean. That's the big difference there. And then we all go out to a bar afterwards and get shit-faced. So that's really fun too. But we'll hopefully get back to that. We might even do both, or figure out a way, Ben. This is like probably more your expertise, but figuring out how we could maybe live stream from a specific location in one of these five cities that we do these events in, so people can be a part of the masterclass, in
we can do
places elsewhere.
Yeah, I think
there's this thing called live streaming.
So the question from George is how does this tasting panel work? And George, I assume you're not asking about just in general, but the specific process where the loser casts also distillery 30. So we actually had for this, and correct me, George, if I'm wrong. I'm assuming you're referring to this project, but there were just six casks, different spirits from different distilleries, different cask types, different ages. It's like a whole variety, really. And we chose from those. So it wasn't it wasn't 6 from distillery 30, and we kind of really got into it. Of course, we've done things like that in the past and will, but this is it was a wide variety. And the first two, this is a third of the 3 that we chose 3 of the 6. This is the third one. If anyone kind of missed that earlier when we just went live, the first 2 were peated peated Highland, peated Isla whiskey, and this was the only unpeated that was chosen, I guess, of the three. So that's that. And yeah.
And just to be clear, this is not a lottery bottle when we release this, or is it? Can
it is.
Clarify that for everyone? It is.
It is a lottery bottle.
It is lottery bottle. Okay.
It is a lottery bottle.
There were,
yes, absolutely.
There were some questions about that.
There will be a lottery. Yeah, I think I just said that. So there will be a lottery tomorrow. So when the email drops, you don't have to like scurry to purchase a bottle. You will just simply be entering your member information for the lottery. Only members in good standing are eligible. So if you maybe need to renew or perhaps grab a new membership to be eligible for that, please do so. Mm-hmm. And then on Monday, Monday the 6th of December, we will make the drawing and reach out to everyone who has won. If you aren't contacted on Monday, fear not, because for some crazy reason, not everyone grabs that bottle or orders that bottle when they're told they're able to. So, on Wednesday, we'll be reaching out to likely another set of members. So no worries there. But yeah, there are a few bottles of this. I want to say 157.
But 100 minus a few, I think.
Minus a few for us, I guess. Yeah. So we're down to like what, $1.54.
Yeah.
For the members. So that's that's a good hit. So sign up. I mean, listen, you'll never make a shot you don't take. So
going back to the question, I think that actually, Todd, you asked this question earlier. Is it limited one per member? Yes. I think the big reason is obviously this is the project in which we allowed members to sort of contribute to the selection. And of course, we want to be able to open the door to as many members as possible, even though 150 some odd members is relatively small to the total membership. We totally appreciate that. But obviously, we had 3 of these whiskeys. And guess what? We'll be coming back with more of these. So it's an ongoing project. So yeah, that said, everybody, you'll check your email. If you haven't subscribed to our emails already, make sure to do so. Go to smwsa.com. You can subscribe there. We'll be sending the email as soon as it opens up. No, there's no advantage of entering the lottery drawing at 1 o'clock Eastern exactly, as opposed to 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. But anyway, nonetheless, thank you, Tom. I think you put this up just now. If you're not yet a member, there is still time. Of course, our whiskey is available exclusively to members. So you do have to join in order to be able to enter the lottery and or order any whiskey from our shop. So check us out right there. And I'm going to kind of let this breathe, go and enjoy the rest of this dram, maybe pour another. I think, Tom, you're ahead of me. Let's make that
I've had a few, buddy. It's been a day.
Yeah, buddy. It sure has. Happy holidays, everybody. Happy December.
Yes.
We got a big schedule coming up. We'll be revealing it soon. A lot of live streams going down. We have a lot of special guests. I can tell you, I saw Mark Brodas in the chat from Scotch for Dummies. They will be joining us for one of our outturn previews next month. And I'm trying not to reveal anything else. I'm not going to say anything else. Anyway, nonetheless, really appreciate all of you for tuning in. If you have any questions, go ahead, shoot us an email, info@smwsa.com, or just drop a comment below on this video and we'll get you there. So everybody, Jenna, if you want to give us a toast based on the framed image right behind you. What does that say? Can you grab that thing and just pull that up here? Let's just see what this is. Oh, classic. I like that the exclamation point is below, by the way.
That's like a separate line.
You have to. Like, you have to really mean it. Like, you have to mean it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, you should scare up another exclamation point there. Is it just one?
I'll have to see if I have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sláinte, everybody. Sláinte. Cheers.
Yes. Sláinte.
Sláinte, everyone.
Till next
Thanks.
time.
Yep.